hello, and welcome to My Perspective Mondays.
Everybody.
Oh,
Hey,
wow. Hey, it's so good to be back with you guys, the cast. Hey, we're glad to be here tonight just to bring some more perspective. We got a great show tonight. I hope everybody was safe in the storm, that was located in the storm area, and just keep those people in prayer. So, tonight, we're going to be talking about, is there such thing as disrespecting adults anymore?
Ooh, I already know who I'm gonna argue with
Come on
on
now,
this.
is there such
Oh,
a
yeah.
thing as that?
Of
Sure, there
course.
has to be, or is
Wait,
there
wait.
not?
oh gosh.
Now,
I
this
was
is really
gonna,
cool.
I
So,
was gonna, oh,
go ahead on, Kiani. Hit it.
I was gonna respond, but Mark always starts in with, "Well, what are we
Well,
actually talking about here?"
yeah.
Uh,
What do we
wait,
mean?
I got to do it better. Well,
What,
what
what
are we actually talking about here?
what do we mean by disrespect? What do we mean by an adult?
Yeah.
Well, adulthood starts at 18, so
Does it?
yes, it's supposed to be on paper,
Can't
but
drink
I
at that
wonder
age.
about that mind, I wonder about that.
Yeah. You gotta wait to get somebody in the head for that
Well,
one.
there's this thing in life called realistically and technically. Like when I was in the army, I used to tell people like I used to tell my platoon leader when I was platoon sergeant, I said, technically you're in charge of the platoon, but realistically I'm in charge of the platoon. So it's technically you're an adult at 18, but realistically sometimes you're not, depending on the person.
Ooh,
I don't
so
know.
at what age would you define
Oh,
an adult as?
well,
Well,
you
see,
at least
and in my world, an adult. I know we say that college students are adults, but when I saw this topic, it went to my little corner of the world, and it is are people 18 to 22 years old respectful or disrespectful of older people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Mm,
So that's just where my
how I
mind.
interpret it too.
I don't deal much with small kids or with young middle teens. So
Yeah.
Well, here's my answer to that. There's always throughout time. There's always a disrespect adults that have disrespectful kids, but I think sometimes adults think something's disrespect when it's not, just because they're adults. For instance, the days of you just being able to say whatever you want out of your mouth to a kid are kind of over,
yeah,
especially if you're not my mom or my dad or my uncle. Adults have gotten away with just saying whatever the heck they felt like off their tongue because I'm an adult and I can't say anything. That don't fly today. You know how many adults I wanted to smack across the face or curse out for saying stupid things to me when I was a kid, but I couldn't? That don't fly no more today. Uh, because now you're held accountable. There are adults that are out there that are totally disrespectful to kids, and they use the moniker, well, I'm an adult. That does not
yeah.
give you the right to be disrespectful. Now, if you want respect, I don't care what age you are, you need to show respect.
I
You
Mm,
agree.
can't ask
Interesting.
for
Yeah.
something.
for people.
Yeah, you can't ask for something you're not willing to give.
I'm
Mm,
waiting for Lisette to chime in with my dad used to smack me when I talked back to him.
yeah, that's
Well,
what I was.
my dad, one thing my dad did not put, there's four things my dad didn't put up with. He didn't put up with nobody stepping on his blue suede shoes. That ain't gonna happen. And he didn't put up with nobody slamming his car doors. That ain't gonna happen. Nobody messing with his daughters. And he showed him put up with nobody messing with his money. He would take his gun. He had two guns, one on each side. He did not play.
It was a U.S. Marshal or what?
No, he just ain't gonna put up.
Number runner?
But I thought
He's
the way
not
you
gonna
always
play.
talk is that like every time you talk back or something like that, you got slapped across the mouth or something.
Well,
Or
no, one thing I will say, and plus he didn't put up with nobody disrespecting
I was waiting for that
Daisy,
one.
my mother. But I learned. I mean, I learned by watching my other siblings get knocked across the room. I said, okay, not do that. Boom. I'm like, okay, I won't do that. He did not slap me across my face because I had respect. I mean, I try to give him respect in the sense that, I mean, I know that I could be, I could say what I wanted to
Of
say,
course.
but there was consequences behind
Yeah.
it. So I learned very soon not to do that. I mean, for
Well,
one thing, I did respect him in the sense that I didn't want to do that. Yeah.
Well, and you, I believe, knowing you like I do, I believe you. It's just that I know if they're older people, say my age or perhaps a tad younger or older, are watching this, they're saying, "Well, in my day, boy, we respected our elders, so forth, so on." And and I see these things on social media. One of those things is when I was a child, I was taught to this, I was taught to that, and I didn't dare deviate from it. And I think, wait a second, I knew you when you were a child, and you were not like that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the way you think you were. You were just as big an asshole as I was, if not worse.
Is it a part of being respectful is following your parents' rules? Like don't sneak out of the house, don't eat, go in the fridge at this time, don't do this, don't do that, as if no kid
Mhm.
did anything wrong. But I think
And
when you're
you break them.
disrespecting an adult, there's a difference between when we're talking about disrespecting your parents and or your guardians as opposed to some adult on the street or a teacher or something like that. There are different areas of respect. I mean, we all can remember it. We had some really great teachers and we had some really you know what teachers, and I've seen the really awesome teachers, but I've also seen the teachers that would say certain things to a kid they have no business. I was in class one day and
Absolutely.
this girl was actually, you could tell she was having a bad day. The girl was having a bad day. She wanted nothing to do with class. Instead of that teacher saying, "What's wrong with you?" she says, "Hey, get it together." And she said, "Please don't yell at me." She goes, "I'll do whatever I want. This is my classroom. You don't tell me what to do. If your family wasn't so dysfunctional, you wouldn't have an attitude." Now, why would you be saying that to a kid?
Because you
They're
can.
using their age as a power.
We cold.
But you can't. Now, if that little girl gets out of that desk and walks up there and mollywops her ass,
Hello.
now she's suspended and compounds the problem.
Even worse if the mama comes to the school and mollywops her for the same thing, because there are parents like that now. You disrespect the child, and that's an extension of them. You ain't gonna disrespect my child. I don't give a if it's your classroom or not. Yeah, I've heard it and seen it too. Growing up in like high school and middle school, parents will come to school literally ready to fight if.
Well, but see that creates another problem now because if now I'm not excusing with in that, and I had teachers like that too, John, and but you know, and those I didn't go home and tell my parents I was too embarrassed to, but you can't, you're not justified in responding to harsh language with violence.
Right.
Now, so the thing for the kid to do, what the parents to do, okay, if the kid gets something, walks out of class, says, "I'm going to the principal and tell him what you did." Now, if you're prepared to defend that, fine, all right. And the parents the same thing. I did that a couple of times with when it came to teachers and my kids. But I know the knee-jerk reaction is to want to do it like that. But
Yeah,
that
because you know what, Mark?
that escalates things.
Because
It's
sometimes
legal.
you just ask questions. My nephew, I remember he was in elementary school, and it's so funny. My nephew, he gets mad because my sister tells him he's just like me. I don't know how he ended up like me, and he's just my nephew. I didn't raise him. Well, he got in trouble in school, and my mom's reaction, of course, is to go to school and raise hell and smack him upside the head, right? So I asked questions. I asked the teacher, "What happened?" She said, "Well, he was doing, I forgot what he was doing. He was doing something in class, and I told him to get up and go to the principal's office." He got up, he slammed his desk down, and he walked towards the door. I walked over to the door, and I grabbed him by the arm. I said, "See, that's where you messed up. You told him to leave." Okay, he slammed the desk down. He's 9 years old. Good Lord. But he's walking to the door to go to the principal's office like you told him. Why the extra step of walking up and grabbing my arm? Now you've got an angry kid who's frustrated, and all you did was make it worse. You didn't de-escalate.
Escalated.
Yeah.
You made it worse.
I'll never forget. This isn't quite the same thing, John, but it just shows how certain things can stick with you. Now, most of the time, when I got in trouble at school, it was my fault. Okay, I granted that, and I had a very, very smart mouth. I know it's hard for you to believe, but I had a very smart.
No, it's not.
But when I was in the 8th grade, as a history class, this teacher, to this day, I hate this woman. Even though she's been dead 40 years, I can't wait to get to the other side.
Mark is like, let me find
Knock you
that
upside the
grave.
head.
Mark
Right.
is like, if I find that grave,
If I find her walking around heaven, we're gonna have another war.
Jeez, you
Yeah,
can't even
what-
rest in the
What
afterlife.
wait,
war
Mark.
started is nothing compared to
Wait.
what I'm talking about.
wait,
But we were
Mark,
having a discussion once
hold
about
on. Hold on, Mark. I
Yeah.
just pictured you in heaven and Jesus walking up to you and saying, "Hello, Mark, my child." You say, "Hold up a second. Hey,
He'll probably say, "Let me see your papers. I'm not sure you're supposed to be here.
Wow.
You got an ID on you?"
Mm-mm.
But this 8th grade teacher, history teacher, and it was we were talking about Marco Polo of all things, and Marco Polo was an Italian explorer who went to China. Somehow I got it in my head. I got confused by what she said. I said, "Was Marco Polo Chinese?" And she lit into me about what a dumb question that was, or something like that. And all I said was, "I just asked." And she gets this close to my face, and I'll never forget that.
Ooh.
But I was 13 years old. What am I going to do? Or 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
You didn't go home and tell your parents in those days. But to show you, and I mean, and like I said, most of the stuff that happened to me in school was my fault.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I'll never forget is just what you said just reminded me of that.
This is interesting. I remember when I was going to ECU, and it says we are taught to respect our elders. Even
Was Mark your professor when you went to
when
ECU?
No,
No, she's not in therapy, so
I was
she
over
wasn't.
there on the weird side of the campus. I was in the artsy department. There's always
Well,
strange people.
I take it in the rear every day, so okay. Yeah.
But these two students, they were talking in class, and they were somewhat rude a little. They were loud. So the professor said, she said, "Now, you're going to get out of my class. Get out,
Yeah.
And so the one of the students said, "I'm a tail." I said, "Tail." I mean, like, what's all this? Who in the world is she gonna tell? Like, she said, "I'm gonna tell." She walked out of the door, through the door. And when she came back, the dean was standing outside. He called the instructor outside of the class. And when she came back, we never were bothered by that instructor ever again. Never. I mean, I don't know what she said. Maybe her parents, might have been contributors to the school. I don't know what was the deal, but she didn't bother us no more.
Well, I of course, naturally, I have a little different take on that.
She's a nice lady. I mean,
but
what's your take, Mark?
A grown person, talking in class, you got to be told to be quiet. Now, I'm not saying I've never thrown anybody out of class. I've never done that. But I pull no punches when it comes to reprimanding them. I didn't take any classes in educational pet. Well, I did, but in how to diplomatically handle a butthole in class. That's not something you learn. So I say, "Hey, be quiet," or just something like that. I don't try to be over the top obnoxious about it, provided their behavior is just they're a tad out of line. Sometimes a dirty look will do it, or you just call them, that type of thing. But an adult should know better. That's all. Now, what the exact circumstances there, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Well, they shouldn't be. I hate when, because of course people here, we've all been to college. I hate when a bunch of people are having a conversation disrupting everyone else who's trying to learn. But I remember a professor telling me, because like half the class was asleep, and I thought it was weird when I first went to college. I was like, half. And he told me very clearly, he said, in high school, it's a teacher's job to get you the pass. In college, it's your job to get yourself the pass.
Yeah.
More responsibility.
I'm not going to hold your hand and give you safety nets. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. You come to me if you need a little extra help.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's on you, buddy.
It's on your own.
But I'll wake them up, though.
As a college student right now, that's what I've learned. You have to have that fire. If not, either somebody good to you is going to light it up under you, or you're going to have to figure out how to reignite it yourself. But yeah.
But going back to the theme tonight is supposed to be about disrespecting adults, and because I sort of, okay, how does this apply to me? And I know the nostalgic thing to say is, "Oh, gee, kids don't have any respect these days," and so forth, so on. Well, they said the same thing when I was young, and honestly, I found that the vast majority of the population I deal with, all genders, all races, students, they're not disrespectful any more or less than I was at that age. I think what is different, though, I think they tend to want to have things explained over and over and over again, and they tend to think that everything is appealable. All right, and they think that because we set up systems that enable that. Mm-hmm. We have an appeal for this and appeal for that, so naturally they're going to take it. But as far as just being belligerent or being disrespectful, I don't insist on being called sir or anything like that. But a lot of them do anyway. So I got no problems in that realm. Not with most people. Not with most young people.
We also live in a world where opinion today kind of outweighs facts. 1 + 1 is 2, and that someone will follow that up with, in my opinion, it's 5.
I would say 1 + 1's 11. 2 1s is 11.
Well, here's the thing I want to caveat to what you just said, Mark. I realize most of the people who complain about certain things, whether kids saying things that they shouldn't be saying, political correctness, empowerment of something, woke, everybody who complains about it, I notice, are people who want to still get away with saying stuff that you can't do anymore. Like, no one that has any sense cares that you can't do certain things anymore, except for the person that still wants to do it. Like someone who gets up in arms because it's politically incorrect to call a woman the B word. Oh my God, it's so sensitive. Well, why do you feel the need that that word needs to be acceptable still, sir?
Well, I'm glad you used that example, John. Okay, look, I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
That a woman shouldn't tolerate being called the B word. But I do get why should a woman be so strong to being called a lady? And when we get to that level of sensitivity,
that's just ridiculous. I saw a lady get upset because she was getting insurance, and the guy said, "Hey, if you sign up today, you'll be grandfathered in." She goes, "What does that mean? You don't have any relation with gender relations." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Very patriarchal there. I mean, that it gets to that level though, because I have female colleagues that get their nose out of joint if somebody refers to them as ladies.
That's interesting.
Well, you can't do certain things anymore, like the little older Southern lady that calls you sweetheart or honey or baby. You get in trouble for doing that. You can't.
Wow.
Really?
Oh yeah, especially in the world of teaching. Like, we had a coach. She was much older, and she got a complaint because she kept calling the girl sweetie or honey. And now, in the girl's defense, I understood where the girl was coming from, because a lot of people will say those things when they think you're being slow, or they make it sound like it's like, well, it's okay, sweetie.
It can be used in a condescending way, especially honey.
Yes. Yeah. Well, honey, that's
we can't do that now, honey. You know.
I feel like you'll feel the genuine part of that though if you're not looking for anybody to be some sort of, I want to say a word, but I'm trying to keep myself from saying it.
Say the word, honey. It's my perspective.
I mean, if you're dealing with like an asshole, like of course you can feel that.
You can't call me that.
See how he thinks I'm targeting him. You can feel that, but if it's somebody being genuine, like, "Oh no, honey, I got you," or "No, honey, we can do this XYZ," like you can feel that, and you know it's not any terms of disrespect. It's a matter of them actually trying to be somewhat on your level and communicate with you. Now, if you're just dealing with somebody who wants to nitpick, we could talk about the Bible for all we can, like stuff like that. Like we can sit here and pick and choose on how we see things based on what it already is.
Well, would you be offended, you or Lisette, I'll ask you both, if I were just to say right now, I do this my perspective thing with a couple of guys and 2 girls, would that offend you?
No. Yes.
No.
I wonder why.
Well, it would have fit. It should have fit Lisette because she's not a girl; she's a woman.
We gotta take this out of context.
And it will offend Devin because Devin's a boy. So
I just love we had this moment on the internet.
Yeah, so that would probably offend Devin. Mark.
Well, okay. Would saying I'm doing it with a boy, would that offend?
No.
Yeah, because I'm a grown ass man.
I'm a grown man. If you want to be sure to correct the gender issue, then sure, why not? I don't care.
Well,
you address me, you know.
Also, Mark, and this goes with race. It definitely would, like, Mark, I know you, so it's different.
So you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it definitely would depend on how the word boy came out of your mouth.
Oh, that one I've heard since junior high.
So when I was doing
Be careful how you say that one,
when I was doing Kung Fu at the Kung Fu Center in Raleigh, my Sifu used to call me boy all the time. He's like, "Boy, go over there. Boy, do this. Boy," and I get annoyed. And so he asked one of the guys that was there, was me and another white guy. He said, why does Stevens get mad when I tell him to do stuff? He said, well, because you keep calling him boy.
Boy.
He goes, he goes, well, and so he explained to him what that means in a negative tone. And he comes to me and goes, I am so sorry. In China. Wait, who's echoing?
You.
No, it's not me. It's coming through somebody's mic.
Okay.
Oh, anyway. So he said, in China, if you're not married, you're called boy, no matter how old you are. You're not a man until you're married. I said, well, I've been married. He goes, okay, I won't call you boy anymore. And he goes, but why didn't you tell me? And I said, well, it wasn't like I could kick your ass. The guy's 60 years old, and he grabs my arm, and I'm falling over like a little kid. So
I don't mind so much people if you will call me girl, but just don't treat me like a little girl. You know, I'm a woman, you know. But you know, it's interesting because can you disrespect somebody at work? Can another adult disrespect someone at work?
Well,
Not anymore.
Absolutely.
No. Well, everything. Listen, I learned this. It depends on who you are, what you do for that company, and how much money you make them. The better you are at your job, the more leeway you get. If you're always late and you're a jerk, your leeway is this big. So we used to always say, like in Army, we said, do what your rank can handle at work. Do what I call it your credit score at work. Do what your credit score at work can handle. You know.
Well, now, and I don't know about your work environments, but in my work environment, we have, I guess, what I call the pronoun wars.
Uh-huh.
And people that sign their emails saying, you know, he, him, his, she, her, and some are they. And then there's some that I've never heard of before. I even Googled it, couldn't find out what they mean. They're like 12 different kinds of pronouns a person can pick. And I mean, look, I mean, there are things I don't understand and can't keep up with and all that. But I mean, it's to the point now where if someone is addressed by the wrong pronoun, even unintentionally, it's a major case.
See, now that annoys me. And me being homosexual, you think I'm in part of the fight, which I am. I understand pronouns. I understand being want to call what you were.
Me too.
What I get annoyed with was when you get mad because I learned the English language different. They, to me, I grew up knowing more than one person. So it's like, if you call me there, you calling me fat? That's what I want to know, number one. Because you're saying it more than one person. But all jokes aside, what I get upset with, someone's echoing. What I get upset with is, gosh darn it, it's not me. Who is it? Hello. Yeah, it's not me. I changed my mic.
Who was you? Okay.
It had to be.
I still hear the echo. But anyway, what I don't like is when I can look at you by appearance and you look exactly like one thing and you're getting mad because I don't know in that instance, never knowing you, what you are. It's an easy correction. I was in the LGBT center. The LGBT center, helping someone, and a guy walked in. And when I say guy, this guy almost looked exactly like Weenie. Same haircut, white guy, chiseled chest. He looked like a surfer dude, actually. He walked in there, and I said, hey, man, I am not a man. And I said, okay, first of all, we're both at the LGBT center. Why are you here in the tick fit? And that made him even madder. I said, second of all, you look like a guy called you a guy. The simple thing to do is say, hey, I don't go by man. Yes, and then I will respectfully call you the right thing. I won't disrespectfully call you something else, but the hostility, because you look like something, is not my fault. What do I look like to you guys? I look like a man. But if I don't go by man, I'd have to tell you that. I can't assume Mark doesn't know I go by him.
And the thing that in my case, I get that every day at work, since I work in retail in a grocery store. Countless people, ma'am, this, she said that.
Well, you got it on the show for me a while ago, so
That's kind of different, Devin.
That's saying like, okay.
And I apologize for the, as they say, the fox pass there. Okay.
Wait, what is Kia? What, sir?
It's not fair. You're all at work running around on your tippy toes like a butterfly and singing Beyonce. Nobody knows.
What? Don't you? Oh wait. First, don't bring Beyonce into this for one. Two, walking on no tiptoes. I have no heels on. Straight flats. We ain't got time. Three,
I feel
We
like that overshadowed Greg in this episode.
we've. I'm really just coming after John at this point.
Poor Greg. Greg, I forgot you were on the episode. Greg, what are your thoughts?
You know, overall, my thoughts are I think you should always respect everyone, but you should really respect your elders because your elders have a lot of experience. I think of everyone that's older than me has something to give. They have a lesson to give. They've paved the way. And so you should always just listen to your elders, even if they're saying something weird or stupid. Just nod your head. You know, you can always take everything with a grain of salt, but overall, I think you should respect everyone, but especially respect your elders. I think of them
I
all.
absolutely agree with that.
I agree.
Because if you think about it, they've been on this planet a lot longer than you have. I mean, they've been traveling this planet. It's almost like on your job, and you have someone that's been on the job a lot longer than you have. Have you ever seen anyone that has been on a job, longer than the person had, just come on or something, and they saying like, I know what to do. I don't need to look, I mean, it's just like, it's just disrespectful. I mean, give them credit for at least
Either John disagrees or he's having a seizure. I'm not sure which.
John disagrees. I'll tell you why.
While I agree with, because I knew what Lisette was going to say, while I agree with both of you, there's always, nothing is absolute. There's always a caveat. Respect your elders, but I'm going to be frank. Don't come to me talking that shit. Okay?
Facts. Thank you.
You're 65, you can get these hands just like if you're 35. Okay, that's number one. Okay, and we do still have a lot of older people that are running around still idiots. Like Mark said about that friend of his, I know friends that are my age that I grew up with, they're still the same idiot that they were when they were 20, and I wouldn't want anybody to listen to them. That's number one. Then you have the job thing that you said. I agree with that well, but then there's also a caveat. You have people that have been at a job for a long time, but they ain't done nothing since they've been at that job. They've just been there 9 to 5, meandering around, being the same old stagnant person. And that ain't the person that needs to be telling me how to do my job.
Whoa, that's true.
Whoa.
True.
All worked for a bad manager before.
Yeah.
All of us have.
Oh,
I have.
And so what I think the difference is today is like when I was saying the joke about you can get these hands. The joke today is you can't just expect respect from someone younger than you while being totally disrespectful. That's the difference. Like you said, you're always respectful. I said, if I see a kid disrespecting you, even knowing you, I can tell they're being out of line. But there's some adults I can tell them like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. The kid's not wrong. One of us has to be an adult, and right now the kid is being a bigger adult than you. And that's when my problem comes in.
Oh,
I guess respect until they give you a reason not to.
Yes, but let me just, John, here's a counterpoint to that, though. And that sometimes, whether I'm thinking, when I coach my kids' athletic teams or particularly with, say, younger children, and I'm not talking about, 20-somethings like I deal with every day. There are times, though, when a child, when I say a child, I don't mean a young adult, but a child needs to be told to do something, and it shouldn't have to be explained in detail over and over again. Because some children, some mindsets, they really can't get it at that age. You just have to be told, no, don't do this, and one day you'll understand. But I don't have time to stand here and explain it, to do a 5-minute explanation right now.
Oh, that definitely makes sense. Saying why is different than wanting elaboration on, because remember when I was growing up, you couldn't ask about anything. You just get the answer. That's the way it is, and you don't learn anything from it. But before we get to Weenie's weekly market update, Mark has an important question for you, Weenie. Go ahead, Mark.
You ready?
What's up, Mark?
Okay. You ready for my question?
Yeah, what's up?
What the hell happened to my money?
Oh, the 401k. Oh, boy. Well,
Anything.
we're about to go over it and Weenie's weekly market update. it's important to go over what happened the first Weenies Weekly Market Update, which I'm also going to cover in this market update. And I'm hopefully going to give my best forecast as to what's going to happen into the market this month and then over the next year, 3 years, and potentially even 10 years.
I hope your forecast is more accurate than the meteorologist who tracked a hurricane last week.
I hope so too.
Also, Weenie, I found out who the echoer is, and it's you.
Is it me?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Do you think it's probably because I'm sharing my screen?
No, it was doing it before. I don't know, but we're going to keep rolling. Now let's get into Weenie's Weekly Market Update.
I'll answer that, Mark.
Where the hell's my money?
Hello, welcome to Weenie's Weekly Market Update. I'm just going to go over what happened in the market the past few weeks, what's likely going to happen this week, and I'm going to forecast the market over the next month, maybe 1 year to 3 years to 10 years as well. So let's get right into it. First of all, our first Weenie's Weekly Market Update, this is a daily chart of the S&P 500 over here, and this is just the overall market. So it broadly tracks your 401ks, anybody that's investing in the market, weekly, monthly, any sort of like pension plan or anything of the sort. And our first day, this is a daily chart. So each green and red candlestick that you see represents 1 day of price action. And so this was kind of like early August. We were talking about how the market is not a buy because the market goes in wave patterns. And the wave pattern was just having a pattern up. And so we were really extended and overbought, meaning we were just way too high of a price without really pulling back. And I was saying September is usually a bearish month, meaning more likely to drop than go higher. And so statistically in the past, it was more likely to drop than not. We also had a lot of other bearish developments. A couple weeks ago, I wanted to go into some patterns, but there's a lot of chart patterns. We're not going to go too much in depth into them today, but there was bearish chart patterns, meaning the market was more likely to drop than go higher. And by the end of September, we were likely to revisit the June lows. And just last Friday, at the end of September, we eclipsed those June lows. So we kind of showed some ways to potentially hedge your portfolio, meaning protect your portfolio, because if you're invested in a 401k or you're invested in the market, you can't really just sell or pull out your 401k. There's a lot of tax implications with that. And again, I'm not a tax advisor. So what you can do is you can buy these inverse ETFs that go up when the market goes down. And we noted SPXS right there when it was sitting at about $17 a share. And so you can load the boat on SPXS, and it kind of like dampens the blow on your 401k because this goes up as your 401k goes down. It kind of like locks it in place where it's at without needing to go with that tax implication. And SPXS from that entry, SPXS is up over about 70%. So if you invested $1,000 in SPXS, you made $700. And of course, that compounds if you invested more. So it's always just important to note, what's your position in the market? I mean, I'm a short-term trader, but you're also a trader if you're invested in the market. Believe it or not, it's of course not as frequent. You're doing less buys. You're not hopping in and out day to day or minute to minute. But if you're invested in the market, you're basically saying, hey, I think that the market is a better return on my money than cash is. And again, not everybody's a trader or a CMT, a chartered market technician. But if you are invested in the market, you're forecasting that the market's going to be much, much higher in the future than lower. And the market's done a great job over the past few years, showing a nice, strong uptrend. However, if you look beneath the curtain and look behind some of the things that the Federal Reserve has been doing over the past few years, they did some sketchy monetary policy, meaning they printed a little bit too much money during the panorama and it V-shot the market. And now we're just coming back towards the mean. Think of like reversion to the mean. If you go too far outside the mean, you snap back in. You're overdue to snap back in. So that's what's happening in the overall market right now in terms of different sections or sectors of the market. Tesla reported delivery numbers today, and they were good, but they weren't as good as analysts had expected. And so Tesla having a big down day today, down 8.61%. And the demand for Teslas are just decreasing because we're in a recession right now and we're getting into the thick of it. So right now, things are decently bad in terms of economics, but they're likely to get a little bit worse over the next few months. And then I'm expecting a little bit of recovery after a few years, but it's going to be tough. And that's why I keep always saying stocks are not the place to be right now. You should be investing in yourself. Of course, if you have an investing plan where you dollar cost average, stick with it. However, I do think that investing in yourself is definitely the way to go. So Tesla, the demand is probably going to be decreasing over time. It's a pretty expensive car, and it was pricing in that Tesla is going to have skyrocketing demand. So Tesla's really feeling the heat. If you wanted to potentially make money off of Tesla dropping, again, none of this is a recommendation to buy or sell any security, but just keep an eye on the ticker symbol TSLQ. Again, that's TSLQ. And this goes up, TSLQ. This goes up when Tesla goes down. So if you wanted to, quote unquote, short Tesla, you could buy TSLQ. Again, I'm not advocating for it, but just watch how that ticker symbol moves. It moves twice the speed of Tesla. So if Tesla is up on the day, TSLQ will go down on the day and you'll lose money if you bought it. So just understand the risks and rewards of certain different things in the overall market. There's also new stocks entering the market like Rumble. And this stock is basically, this company is a free speech company. It's kind of like Google or YouTube, but you can really say whatever you want. So there's a lot of swears on there. Could be interesting if it gets a breakout over this resistance area of about 1330. And I did start a small position. So full disclosure, I started to buy just a little bit of RUM stock, and I'm going to manage my risk. I'm going to sell those shares if it comes underneath 12, because that means my thesis was wrong and I'm going to cut my losses. So I always like to cut my losses short. And then when I get a winning trade or a stock that's moving in my favor, I try to milk it for as much as I can. So, and that's also what you should probably be doing it with your investments. That's why it's so easy to invest over the past few years. You just invested in the market and it just keeps going higher. So it's not really that hard to really hold that winning long-term trade. But now it's getting harder to hold that winning long-term trade because now we're starting a new downtrend that I expect to continue for at least 1 year. Like I'd say 90% chance that we continue this downtrend for at least 1 year, but potentially up to 3 years, and depending on how it evolves, 10 years plus. So something to think about in a bear market, which is what we're in. We tend to chop downwards and then have a short spike. So we're chopping downwards and then short spikes that are short-lived versus a normal bull market, which we've been in. It's a choppy uptrend and then bigger drops, sharp drops, choppy uptrend. So just another way to look at the market. And then lastly, I just want to touch on the fear and greed index. Again, this just shows what's driving market prices. Last time we checked this, we were at the neutral section, but now that the market has sold off for quite a while, we're kind of nearing towards extreme fear. And so whenever we're at extreme fear, there tends to be really good buy prices. Whenever we're at extreme greed in the market, that tends to be a good time to be a contrarian and maybe sell some stocks or rebalance your portfolio. So that's all I have in today's Weenie's Weekly Market Update. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Let's get back to the show.
Weenie, I really appreciate that. But I have one more very short little question, maybe. What do you mean by investing in yourself? Could you briefly?
That's a really good question. Invest in skills. Take courses that you're interested in. Consider new careers. Consider just what are your passions. Develop what you think you're good at. That's kind of what I mean by investing in yourself. Go to the gym. Get good sleep. Strengthen your relationships. That's what you should be investing in instead of throwing it in some stocks. Just my opinion, though, not financial advice.
Well, Winnie, my question, I guess, is when I say I'm invested, that's where my retirement is. I mean, I don't trade or anything like that. I'm not going to go out and buy a Tesla. But I don't have any choice. I could not withdraw if I wanted to because my employer contributes. So, and it would be a good idea anyway. But I just wonder what it means for people who kind of enter for the long haul, the quasi long haul, say for the next 5 years or so when I hope to retire.
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, I think it could get as bad as a 40% drop. Now, every day it's constantly changing. And that's why I was showing that ticker symbol, because this is one of those times where you actually might want to consider doing a little bit of quote unquote trading, more so as protection rather than as trading. And those are those ETFs that I was showing that you can buy and it goes up when the market goes down. Because my dad, he's retired or retiring, but he can't pull from his 401k. He can't sell it. He's locked in. So what I did was I opened up a brokerage account, and he's like, okay, he's got $5,000, around there. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this inverse ETF so that goes up when the market goes down. And that small portfolio is up a lot. However, his overall 401k is down, but it doesn't have any tax implications in it.
Well, what they do with me typically is as one gets older, your advisors just invest in something more conservative with less risk.
Yeah.
So every time I meet with them, they say, okay, well, let's move it to a more conservative, and something more conservative where you're more likely to gain, at least not lose.
Yeah, definitely. And that's usually moving more towards bonds or cash rather than stocks. The thing is, bonds have been dropping a lot lately too. Bonds are a decent investment now. You'll get about 4 to 5% return now. So bonds are a lot better of an investment in stocks, but I just still think it's safer to just be in cash and invest in yourself. But that's a really good point.
Well, great. This is awesome here. Thank you so much for that knowledge. And I'm kind of curious, what are some of the questions, Keone, that people have been responding to with the topic tonight?
We haven't had a lot of questions, but we did. It's not showing up on the Evmux for some reason, but Clarence said, if you call me boy, you need to be older and black. And then he also said he had an officer who got upset because a fellow officer called her Miss. She wanted to be called by her name. She was going through a sex change. So that's the thing that I was talking about. And people can say, well, what does a woman look like? Let's not be silly. If you visibly look like a woman and someone calls you a woman, just politely correct them and say you're not. You don't have to meet with hostility. If somebody's doing it to be a jerk that you've already told, I understand. But we're only taught to go with what our eyeballs see. This mouse looks black to me. So if it's freaking metallic gray, I'm sorry. I'll correct it next time I say it. I went to a Bill Burr to see Bill Burr in Miami, and he was like, so this lesbian walks up to me, and the whole crowd went like, he goes, what are you grumbling for? She was a lesbian. I know you're asking me, how did I know? I'll tell you how I know. She had on jeans, a lumberjack shirt, and that John Goodman haircut.
John Goodman.
Dead giveaway.
Oh.
Yeah,
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lesbian.
It's so stereotypical, inappropriate, but I'm one of those people. I'm at a comedy show. I'm not going to take a comic serious. It's a comedy show. If he said that to some lady walking down the street, then yes, I would be annoyed and insulted. It's like, come on, people.
I remember one time I had this. He wasn't really a supervisor, but he was in that position for the night. So he talked down to me. You ever seen people that just can't handle power? You give them some power and they flip. They go like, I'm the boss, kind of like Barney Fife or something.
Every day on the road, you see people that can't handle power.
You see what I'm saying? And
driving a car.
He rose up and said some talk down to me. I said, you gonna get it. Right where you do it, that's where you're gonna get it at. I pulled out my 9. I said, let's roll. No, I'm just joking. I didn't do that. But it was very insulting. It was very insulting. And it was so hurtful that I had decided I'm not going back. I'm not going back to that job because I don't want to work around people like. I was just so upset that then I thought about it. I said, no, I ain't going to be upset. I mean, I'm not going to let that, knock me off my job just because you're a jerk. That's not going to happen. And I finally had to talk to him about it. I said, you don't do that. I mean, you don't talk. Don't you talk down to me? I might be short, but you don't do that. You don't roll up on me like that. You don't.
Extremely annoyed with you right
Woo!
Oh man.
now. I am extremely annoyed with you. I thought this was the segment where we get the hair going all over the place and the incoherent babbling, and you didn't do any of that.
It's in there somewhere. It's in there somewhere.
She kept it cute today.
We got the venting. I started to. I felt like I was going to. But no, I didn't.
And you didn't start it with you know what.
You know what?
And now she worked it in.
So let's do this. Let's do a fun thing. Well, Mark, you kind of told one, but let's tell a story. Since we're talking about disrespecting adults, let's tell a story when you were a kid where either an adult pushed you so far, you either disrespected them or they almost got you to say something you should not be saying, to an adult.
There was no almost in my case.
That's what I'm saying. Tell the one that tells the story.
Oh, I think I got one.
Go ahead. Somebody, I don't want to keep going because I can give you
Okay,
one.
I'll start. So, well, this is not like when I was a kid, but probably 4 years back. I was probably like 21, 22.
Here, go ahead.
Anywho, I was at a friend's house and I was like, yeah, hi, whatever, just getting there. He was like, okay, we're going to have to chill here because my mom has company. And I was like, okay, so that's fine. But then he was like, oh, no, let's get everybody to go meet my mom so she knows who's here. I'm like, okay, Black moms do that. So I'm like, all right, that's the usual. She sees me and she looks at me. And as I can see like the disdain on her face. And we go back into the room and I go to my friend and I'm like, why did your mom look at me like that? And I already knew why. She's like, oh, yeah, because she thought you were a girl and I told her no, that you're a dude. And she has an issue with that. And mind you, I've seen his mom's husband who was in there wasn't the husband in the photo that I saw. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, but she claims to be Christian too. Oh, lovely. Coming from a PK or a PGK, I guess, a Peach's grandkid. I'm like, all right, well, you want to talk about me and how I'm such a abomination. What are you doing, ma'am? I need to know who's sitting in that chair in that room that's not your husband.
Wow.
So I almost had the nerve to go up to her because after that, she had asked me to leave, but she had told the son to tell me to leave. So I'm like, oh, that's fine. He starts apologizing because it's his mom. I'm like, that's fine. You call yourself a Christian. We're going to see where you end up doing what you're doing right now.
Hey, you got to remember.
Good answer.
There's hierarchy to the sins to some people. They're not all equal. If you're on this side of the fence, it's a bigger sin. I can cheat on my husband. That's forgiven. But you, no way. So you got to, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that was the time when for me. Anybody else?
I got one.
All right.
This old woman, I think she was like 93, 94. She went off on me. And I went back off on her.
How does a 93-year-old woman go off on anybody?
Well, she did.
Lisette pushed her down the stairs. Watch. That's how it's going.
She got a nose injury.
I didn't push her down, bless her little heart, but she did go off on me, and I felt right bad. But for one thing, the old woman had been taunting me. Devin had been taunting me for a while. Everybody's got one in that family like that. You can't seem to ever do anything right for them. And I've held my mouth for years and I wouldn't say anything, the utmost respect, and for this particular day, she rubbed me wrong. I guess that's when all the stuff just, just went out, you know. And I loaded it on her. I'm telling you, I loaded her so bad, you know, and all the family was like, I can't believe you did that to a 93-year-old. And I went outside, blew some steam, came back in there and apologized in front of everyone because I no matter how old she is, and I'm serious with me, no matter how old she is, I even bought her a dozen roses, and I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm sorry. And when I did that, listen, Keon, listen. When I did that, she melted and she cried, you know. Sometimes you can't always handle ugliness with ugliness, you know.
That's
And
okay.
you can't always do that, you know.
That's okay. You gave the ugliness first, so that's acceptable. And then you gave her some flowers to feel better.
I
But
felt ashamed, you know.
just because you're 93 don't mean you can't learn a lesson today.
Hello.
Say to me.
An old dog can learn new
She has
tricks.
never-
Still.
Since then, she's been my best friend. I laid it to her mark. I cut her down so bad. It's pitiful. I was so embarrassed. I said, oh,
93.
my God.
She's not your best friend because you gave her
Jeez.
flowers. She's your best friend because you told her like it is, and then you gave her some flowers.
You know, and she had been doing that to
There you
many
go.
family members. Many family members, you know,
Yeah.
she did it too, and she would cut them down and hurt their feelings. And I'm saying, like,
You know,
you're a crabby old woman. You know, you
That's-
crabby. You know, I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to get her. I'm sorry, Lord, forgive me. I had to get her. I got her, and I let it out. And when I did, it hurt me for hurting her.
Well, you guys built that. Everybody accepted that behavior for 40 years. So what? That's whose fault is that? I had one where this one lady, when any of my friends were hanging out in the neighborhood, she would come by and just talk so much crap to us. And we didn't say anything because she was an adult and we were kids. Well, I was the first one in the group to turn 18. So we're sitting on the porch. It's me, 18, a 17-year-old, a couple 16-year-olds, and 15-year-old. And she walked by and she said, "You sorry kids ain't got nothing else to do but still just sit around on the porch." I said, "If you don't get your stupid ass from around here talking to us and go find something to do with your life." And she said, "Excuse me?" I said, "What'd you do, fart?" All of them started laughing. So she went to my mom and said, "Do you know what your son said to me?" She said,
I was laughed too.
he is an adult. He is a grown man now. He 18, and you around there flapping your mouth. And I told you when he was 17, and I told you when he was 16 to stop talking to him that way. So don't come around here crying now that he done cursed you out." And that's why I have that moniker of, yes, respect your elders. You should be respectful. But that don't mean you just talk to me any kind of way because I'm a kid, just because you're an adult.
That's true. That's true.
Final thoughts.
Who wants to jump in first?
I gave mine. That was mine right there.
I just had I just had a smart mouth as a kid. I'm trying to think. You know, when did you asked me for one time and I pushed an adult too far? That was every day.
Said the other way.
And I remember when I was in the 9th grade, I was taking algebra, which I hated, and I still don't use. 50 years later, and I was just cutting up. But whatever I did, I made the teacher, and she was in the right, I was in the wrong. I made the teacher so mad. She was so mad she couldn't even write out the slip to send me to the office. She kept messing up and tearing it up and starting over.
Wow.
I mean, that was.
Oh, I would love to
That
see
was
that.
that was my childhood, my adolescence in a nutshell. Just making adults so mad because of my mouth, because of I knew how to just needle people. So I, like most of the time, I had it coming. If I got put in my place, it was for a reason. I think the one time in another math class, it was in math, I struck a match in the room.
Ooh.
The teacher didn't like that very much either.
Oh,
I got my butt hit a few times because of that one.
I think you bring up a good point, though,
I
Mark.
enjoy that now, by the way.
I think you bring up a good point, though, on like testing the limits of the adults on the teachers, because that way you know your limits. So, like you guys asked about a story, and I was thinking when I was in 6th grade, I was in band class and I played the trumpet, and we were playing a song that required forte, but there was like 12 trumpets. So I would always just play like quiet. He's like, "Okay, I need a little bit more trumpets." His name is Mr. Schmidt. we definitely made fun of that name. But he's like, I need a little bit more from the
Too
trumpet.
easy.
We do it again. I know, too easy. We play it again, still too quiet. Play it again. He's like, I need more from the trumpet. And I was a swimmer, so I had some pretty good lung capacity. I was like, okay, he wants louder. I just like exploded the whole room for like that entire scene. And he just like, he got so furious. He was like, Breheim, that was completely unacceptable. Like, he's like, you cannot do that. And I was like thinking I was going to snap on him. I was like, I was thinking, you told us to play louder. But I just like, my face was all red from blasting the room. I just like got up and just walked out, and I just walked home. I literally just walked out the front door of the school and just left. Somehow I was able to do it, but I was testing the limits of him. I wanted to see what he was going to do because he was kind of pushing me, and it's like, I don't know. But like Mark says, all the times I provoked adults, it was my fault. I was just an immature, weird kid, you know.
You and Mark are having a different segment than the rest of us. You keep talking about how you're provoking adults. We're asking.
Well, I was thinking of like, I guess like the adult had yelled at me, and I was thinking of a time where I could yell back.
The difference between me and Mark is Mark's mouth got him into trouble. My mouth got me out of trouble.
I know this. It was about final thoughts. I just throw this in. I've always just had a tendency to mimic. I've always been a pretty good mimic and a pretty good imitator of people. And when I usually just imitate people I know, and they say, "Oh, you just like him," or you just, and that can be taken the wrong way, believe it or not. when you speak like somebody else, when you imitate somebody else's voice, everyone else likes it, but they don't.
Oh, yeah.
And when you imitate your teachers or imitate your elders, it very often does not go over very well.
I'm sure.
I know that firsthand. Thanks, John.
Wow. So, Winnie, did you give your final thoughts?
Yeah, those kind of were my final thoughts. Respect everyone, but I like to respect my elders because they have a lot of wisdom. You never know what kind of knowledge they have. And you can kind of tell if they're saying weird, crazy crap. Then you just kind of slowly avoid them.
Some of them are.
What about you, Devin?
Respect goes both ways. If you want to get something from me, you got to give it.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to
See, and that's where I'm talking about respect. Here he goes singing, imitating my voice or something like that.
Because if you
No,
don't,
I don't like it.
it is sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. Sock it to me.
I'm lead. Come on now, a little respect.
Oh man.
Hey, this is awesome. And my final thoughts is this, I believe you should respect adults. Adults should respect one another. Children should respect adults. And yes, you got to, whatever you give, you're going to get that back. If you give disrespect, you're going to get some disrespect back. So give out what you want to get, and definitely give some respect to those that have lived on this planet a lot longer than you have. I would say definitely they need some respect. I mean, this is a hard place, so give them some respect. Give them some respect. All right. Thanks a lot for watching. Okay. I really appreciate it tonight. Thanks, Weenie, for your updates. And we, the cast of My Perspective, we love you guys. And thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to tune in next time. You hear? Tune in next time.
Tune in next time.
Weenie, where's my money?
Weenie, where's our money? Fix the market, Weenie.
Thanks for the comments.